Welcome back to Big Mouth and welcome to Friday's edition of the dceu Daily. Yeah, we're keeping it DC here today, but tomorrow I will review the Season 2 finale of The Mandalorian to tell everyone, and we'll not just review the finale, we'll review the first two seasons. We'll look at it as a whole. But today our top story is on the dceu Daily, Peacemaker HBO Max series adds 4 more to cast by Will Thorne of Variety. Peacemaker, the HBO Max Suicide Squad spin-off series continues to grow. The show has added 4 new faces to its cast, namely Chuck Woody Iwuji. When they see us as a series regular, and Lachlan Monroe from Riverdale. He was awesome in Riverdale, wasn't he? Annie Chang, Shades of Blue, and Christopher Heredal, he's from Togo, as recurring guest stars. He's not from Togo. There's obviously a show called Togo, or a film called Togo, that I've never heard of. So they're recurring guest stars. They join previously announced cast members John Cena, playing the titular role, Daniel Brooks, Steve Agee, Robert Patrick, Jennifer Holland, and Chris Conrad, in the series, which is a spin-off from James Gunn's forthcoming Suicide Squad picture. Few details about the exact roles these new additions will play are being made available, other than their names. Iwuji is playing a character named Clemson Mern. Monroe is playing Larry Fitzgibbon, and that's a detective, I think, by the way. Not in this article, but I think that's what James Gunn posted on Twitter yesterday. Chang is joining as Detective Sophie Song, and Heredal will play Captain Locke. Monroe's character, Fitzgibbon, is described as a wry and kind character who is Detective Song's partner and friend. DC fans might recognise the name given that a character called Dr. Fitzgibbon is set to appear in Gunn's movie. Gunn confirmed in late October that John Ostrander, whose 1980s Suicide Squad comics formed the inspiration for his new film, will be playing the character. Perhaps this is a younger version or a relative of that Fitzgibbon. It's worth noting that Gunn inserts a character named Fitzgibbon into virtually all his projects as a homage to a close friend of his. The series is said to explore the origins of Peacemaker, a man who believes in peace at any cost, no matter how many people he has to kill to get it. Production is slated to begin in early 2021 prior to Gunn starting work on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Gunn is writing and directing the show, which was ordered to series back in September. His Suicide Squad is set to debut simultaneously in theatres and on HBO Max as part of a monumental move from Warner Media announced earlier this month. They can't help but mention that, can they? And that is the news, that we have got these new Suicide Squad cast members for Peacemaker. What you're going to see in Peacemaker is a lot of stuff that you will or would have seen in James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. I can't even remember what's coming first now, but I'm really looking forward to James Gunn's Peacemaker series on HBO Max. And even though there were rumours that Gunn wasn't happy with Warner Media's idea of streaming and releasing in movie theatres, at the same time, he has kept very quiet about it. That would point that he really does want a future with the studio. So bring on Peacemaker, bring on James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. While everyone was keeping quiet about what went down during the Justice League on-set situation, Ray Fisher was the only one to come out and speak out. But slowly, as the investigation has been concluded, they're all going to come out and have something to say, and Gal Gadot has come out. Justice League's Gal Gadot confirmed she had an on-set issue with Joss Whedon. Now, this is a big declaration. What she's actually said, I'm not sure. I haven't read this yet. So let's find out together. Gal Gadot confirms she also had a negative experience with Joss Whedon on the set of Justice League after Ray Fisher's criticism of the director by a writer called Anna Damarodov. Something like that. Anyway, I've murdered your name. Sorry. Gal Gadot, who plays Wonder Woman, reveals that she also had problems with Joss Whedon on the set of Justice League, and that she participated in the recently concluded investigation regarding the matter. The former Marvel filmmaker took over the DCEU ensemble project after original director Zack Snyder had to step away. He didn't actually have to step away. He was forced away. Stop saying that. Earlier this year, after news that Snyder would be able to finish the Snyder Cut of Justice League, Gadot's co-star Ray Fisher came out and accused Whedon of toxic behaviour while working on the project. The actor further said that both Geoff Johns and John Berg didn't do anything while this was happening. Instead, they even enabled Whedon's unacceptable attitude. This prompted Warner Media to formally open an investigation regarding these allegations, which took several months and had some unexpected developments. Now that it's done, Gadot reveals her own experience with Whedon and how she factored into the inquiry. Speaking with the Los Angeles Times at part of the press rounds for the nearing release of Wonder Woman 1984 in theatres and on HBO Max, Gadot acknowledges that she too had an ugly encounter with Whedon on the set of Justice League. But unlike Fisher's issues, this was quickly resolved once she took the matter to some higher-ups, and she's satisfied with the actions taken. She also adds that she wasn't on location when her co-star's own alleged horror stories took place, so she can't directly talk about it. Nevertheless, she's happy that Fisher is bringing a light to the matter. Isn't it a shame, though, Gal, and the rest of you didn't back Ray up? You had a negative experience. You could have come out and spoken about this. You didn't have to speak about Ray's experiences, but just your own, and backed up Ray then. But you didn't, because you were protecting yourselves. I love Gal. I love Ben. I love Henry. I love Ez. I love them all. I do. But that is simply wrong. Anyway, this is what she had to say. I'm happy for Ray to go out and speak his truth. I wasn't there with the guys when they shot with Joss Whedon. I had my own experience with him, which wasn't the best one, but I took care of it there. And when it happened, I took it to the higher-ups, and they took care of it. But I'm happy for Ray to go up and say his truth. Interesting. So what higher-ups did she go to? Now, this is a kind of contradictory statement, if you like. Think about it. Did she go to Geoff Johns and John Berg, and did they do something about it? If this is the case, now she hasn't mentioned what higher up she went to. Sujihara? Who did she go to? I am going to say something very controversial. I believe that Gal went to Geoff Johns and John Berg, and they dealt with it. So why, when Gal went up with a problem, they dealt with it, but when Ray had issues, they didn't. And I don't think it's anything to do with colour. I think it's about seniority. Don't forget Gal's a woman, and she's not actually from American descent. So she could cry racism as well, right? So why? Well, first of all, I think they take female complaints much more seriously, especially if they're in the nature of something like I think Gal went through. I think there are rumours that Joss locked Gal in a cupboard. I don't know how true that is, and that can just be that's just an alleged rumour. I don't know. But for some reason, Gal went to the higher-ups, I'm saying Geoff and John, right? And they dealt with it immediately, but didn't deal with Ray's issues. Now, this is very serious, because a lot of people are hoping that Geoff Johns will be removed from all DC projects, both comics and movies. But if they dealt with this is contradictory and will be a lot harder to remove him. Now, I believe everyone was part of this investigation. I believe Geoff Johns and John Berg would have had to have been interviewed as well. So the conclusion of this investigation, we actually don't know what actually happened. But it's interesting that Gal got her issues sorted out and Ray didn't. In a separate interview with Variety, Gadot reveals that she was involved in Warner Media's investigation regarding these claims against Whedon while working on Justice League. While she didn't get into the specifics, unsurprisingly, of what went down during her conversations with them, she says that she's confident that it was done fairly and thoroughly. I know that they've done a very thorough investigation, even just by how much time I spent with them, she said. In a statement from the company prior to Gadot's comments, They said the remedial action has been taken, but they didn't reveal what their exact findings were. It's safe to assume, however, that they found fault on Whedon's side, considering that there have been steps executed following it. Gadot is the third main cast member of Justice League to speak out against Whedon, after Fisher initially went public with his claims. Jason Momoa, who plays Aquaman, backed him up and revealed that he too suffered discrimination on the set of the movie. That leaves Henry Cavill, Ezra Miller and Ben Affleck to be the only ones who haven't commented on the matter. That said, it's safe to say that they were interviewed as part of Warner Media's investigation, like Gadot was. Whether or not they'll publicly discuss it remains to be seen. As I say, this is Hollywood. Welcome to Hollywood, right? So people come out, they stir the public up, but we can't actually know the details of what happened. Why not? Because we may find out that what goes on a set isn't your Blu-ray bonus features, right? We're a family. It's such a great experience. It's not. When you're on a set, and I've said this to you so many times, I was talking about Tom Cruise's outburst. I think it's fake. I think he was pretending. I think it's all part of COVID propaganda, but that's a discussion for another time. We're here to talk about DC. A set is a very aggressive, toxic environment. It has to be. There's a geezer standing at the other end. Hey, you! Why haven't you got those woods off the set? It's things like that. I have been on sets, but it's not purposely toxic. It's the only way you can conduct your way through it. Everyone's shouting at each other. Tempers are often frayed. There's frank exchanges of opinions. This is how films and TV dramas are made. There is a lot of temper tantrums. There are lots of issues, and everyone is passionate about getting the content done in the best way possible. So it's not about hatred or bullying, but if you haven't been on a set before, you might see it as that. So interestingly, that gal said yes, she had an issue with what's his name? I forgot his name already. Joss Whedon. And she took it to the higher-ups. She wouldn't mention any names, and it was sorted immediately. And as I say, Ray's issues weren't sorted immediately. It actually seems like everybody's issues were sorted, apart from Ray's. Why is that? Because he was an unknown actor. Nobody cared about him. He didn't have a reputation. And that must have really pissed Ray off. But Ray did really well publicly, getting this investigation, putting the pressure. We mustn't forget Warner Brothers Pictures tried to do some kind of whitewash investigation, but as soon as Warner Media found out what was going on, and this is why they put everything as one now, so Ann Sarnoff and Jason Kilar can know exactly what's going on these sets, and they've got their people watching all the time. So, look, it's over. I'm happy it's over, but we still don't know what this remedial action is, what remedial actually means, and if anyone apart from Whedon is facing any consequences. But from the outside looking in, it looks like it's exactly what Ray said originally, that it is Joss Whedon facing the consequences. Because if Jeff Johns faces any consequences, it will rock DC Comics to its core. Now, this is a Screen Rant article by Zoe Miss Kelly. Why the Flash film Speed Force could make or break the character. By the way, I disagree with this title, but let's see what she's got to say. The upcoming DCEU Flash film will likely need to explain the idea of the Speed Force, which could make or break Barry Allen in the film universe. Right. Have you ever seen the Flash TV series, right? They didn't sit there and say, right, this is how it works, right? Yes, they mention the Speed Force. They quickly say how it works, but it's not a big deal, right? The Flash could be what finally makes or breaks the character of Barry Allen in the DCEU. Although the Flash is a fan favourite DC character, he's been somewhat underutilised in the DCEU, partially as a result of his lighter tone not matching with the serious nature of many of the films, and partially out of sheer bad luck. But this is all about to change with the Flash, which, as the name might suggest, features the speedster centre stage for the next instalment of the franchise. The DCEU movie, The Flash, is reportedly similar to that of the comic Flashpoint storyline, which features Barry Allen messing with the timeline in order to try and rescue his dead mother. inadvertently changing the universe entirely, leaving him to try and fix the mess he unknowingly created. As far as potential first films for a superhero go, this one is stellar, as it's based on a huge comic that shows off the well-meaning, if not forward-thinking character of Barry Allen, and allows for the DCEU to gently retcon whatever needs changing about the universe at the same time. And this is going to be the controversial part, isn't it? What are they going to change? We already know the reboot, what they're going to do with this when he puts things right, will change things, but nobody's going to forget about things that happened in MOS, BVS, Suicide Squad, things like that, Zack Snyder's Justice League. But clearly, things are going to change. But what? That's the interesting topic these journalists should be talking about. But there is one major deciding factor in how the film will affect the character of the Flash, how he explains the Speed Force as the source of many speedster heroes. Power. It's a vital concept, especially since it's important for several of the Flash's potential future storylines. This in mind, the Flashpoint storyline is perhaps the best time to get all the awkward explanations as to the finer points of the Speed Force explained and out of the way. So as to make the DCEU Flash not a character with confusing nebulous powers, paradoxically, though the film needs to also keep the information about the Speed Force short and sweet, as a belaboring, it will only serve to complicate a plot that is already sure to be a little complex, as all plots involving time travel, alternate dimensions ultimately end up being. In fact, Barry did name drop the Speed Force, didn't he, in Justice League? And I don't really think it needs much more explanation, because really the Speed Force is more of a visual thing than something you need to be explained literally. I don't think people will be confused. I think most people know. I think this journalist underestimates the consumer. Barry Allen is a naturally lovable character, so should the science surrounding his powers be pulled off right, it'll be easy for audiences to become even fonder of him. While this may not sound a huge deal, it has to be kept in mind that the Flash is a legacy character who has been held by people before. Who has been held by people before, don't make sense, and after Barry Allen in the comic universe. Thus, should he be received well, the DCEU would be more likely to put energy into establishing that legacy in the films. Also, which could potentially see a flock of linked DC characters and storylines added to the franchise. Should this power seem strange or confusing, other Flashes are less likely to be introduced because it would require further explanation of the same dreaded topic. Look, I think the critics might try and go this way with their reviews, but me and you ain't going to be confused. Audiences are not going to be confused, although there are a lot of simple people who seem to be confused by Wonder Woman 84. Oh dear, piss off. With the success of the more comedic DCEU films like Shazam, Aquaman, Birds of Prey, having a Flash as a cornerstone of lighter DC film content could really benefit further films. But this hinges upon the Flash being a success on its 2022 release. Shazam is a mixture of comedy and drama. It's a mixture. Aquaman has more drama than comedy, very little comedy, by the way. And Birds of Prey had comedic moments, but it also has some great moments as well. Not my favourite DCEU film, as you all know. So I wouldn't call those films comedic films, but these are journalists. But I do want to go back to my earlier point while reading this article. What are they going to reset? This is the big thing. Rumours, of course, once Michael Keaton was announced in Flashpoint, that he would be the DCEU's main Batman, and they would take Batfleck out of it. How devastating would that be to fans like me and you of the Snyderverse? So this is going to be a very controversial movie. This is their plan. This is how they intend to go forward, by changing things, by kind of integrating this multiverse strategy. So I can't tell you what they're going to change, but I do have my suspicions. This is a Screen Rant article by Graham Gutman. WB had doubts Wonder Woman 1984 would work during production. Listen, 20th Century Fox had major doubts about Star Wars and wanted to stop the production near the end. Many studios have doubts about movies and TV dramas. Why? Because it's their reputations on the line. It's their finances. It's them who will lose out majorly. The creators and actors will just swizzle off and do new things, and it will be forgotten eventually. It is absolutely the correct, vindicated responsibility of studios and networks to police these things, and I don't think there's anything wrong. So let's see what he's got to say. Warner Brothers had doubts Wonder Woman 1984 would work while director Patty Jenkins was filming, but she told the studio to trust her. And I think, to be fair to them, they did completely. Seeing this film, I don't think anyone's interfered with this film. This is her movie. This is hers and Callahan's and Jeff Johns' story. So no doubts there. Warner Brothers had doubts while Patty Jenkins was filming Wonder Woman 84. Filming for the sequel to 2017 smash hit took place during the summer and fall of 2018. The movie was subsequently delayed numerous times, both before and during the pandemic. Wonder Woman 1984 is finally set to hit theatres and HBO Max on Christmas Day under a cloud of controversy, spurred by the studio's decision to have all their 2021 films follow the same release model. Good for you, Warner Media. Despite the controversy, early reactions to the film have been highly positive. The film sits at a comfortable 88% on Rotten Tomatoes, with many praising the sequel as the antidote 2020 needs. Still, some have found the film to be overstuffed with its 151-minute runtime. Jenkins has said that the film could have been longer, revealing that she sticks closely to her scripts with nearly every scene. It's interesting because some directors don't do that. But let me just say this. How can a 2.5 film be overstuffed? That's a great length of time, and you've got to fill it right. But I don't think Cheetah, Maxwell Lord, Steve Trevor, a few people, showing up from the original movie. How is this overstuffed? And I hate the overstuffed critique. They said Batman Returns was overstuffed. If you're going to make an overstuffed movie, then please give me Batman Returns. The director elaborated on this in a conversation with Aaron Sorkin at Variety. Jenkins said the scripts is the most important thing to her during filming and that it must be done when shooting commences. Jenkins balked at the notion that some directors make it up as they go along, insisting that she works best when she has the road laid out in front of her. The director also revealed that Warner Brothers was unsure about certain things while she was filming, but Jenkins insisted that they trust her to pull off the final product, and they did. So this is what she had to say. So we did very thorough writing, and then every single day you'd have to have faith in the writer, in you, and then in the artist that you worked with to make a plan, that the plan is going to work. But let me tell you, it's absolutely fascinating to have to wait so long to see it come together. This was such a complicated film that even in the middle, the studio was like, I don't know about these things. I was like, you can't judge it yet. We don't have the effects in. So it looks stupid now, but you have to wait. Carrying that is very lonely. Yeah, I understand, Patty. It is lonely for a director putting all this. A film director is one of the hardest jobs in the world. TV show, any kind of directors. If you people who have directed a play, I've directed pantomimes. I'm going to direct a pantomime this year for the local community at the church, and we're going to social distance. And I've written a really family-friendly pantomime, and it's really about Christmas and having something positive to look forward to, where everyone doubts whether it should happen or not. That's my story, and so I'm going to be directing in it and acting in it as well. So I understand to a point, but also you've got to understand the studio's point of view. And the point of view of the studio is they have the responsibility. Yeah, you have the responsibility to make the film. And that's really stressful, and that's a lot of responsibility. But you've also got to understand these people don't really understand filmmaking. They're the suits, they're the bureaucrats. And when they see something, they think, well, is that going to work? And you as a director, not only do you have to paint a picture for the actors so they can perform it, and you can capture their imagination so they can, perform the part and say the dialogue in the right way, but it's also a job of responsibility of convincing the higher-ups, and that's right and proper on both sides. So I don't think there's anything controversial about this on either side. Every director's process is different, and insight into Jenkins' methods can give viewers an idea of what goes into making one of the most anticipated films of 2020. It helps that it's one of the very few blockbusters to release this year. No, it doesn't. Why are you trying to say it's a crap film? So it's better that there's not many to compare it by. It's interesting that Jenkins still felt pressure from the studio. Every director feels pressure from the studio, and quite rightly too. as to their doubts about the project, considering that the original Wonder Woman was a massive success. It doesn't matter. Sequels have been failures before. It's absolutely right and proper for the studio to question what's going on. And Patty was right from her point of view as well. Wonder Woman was a massive success both critically and at the box office. Wonder Woman may have been Jenkins' first major blockbuster and her first film since winning Monster, but the director more than proved her abilities filming the first movie, so much so that she's helming a new Star Wars film for rival studio Disney. How much freedom is she going to get on that project is going to be interesting. Yes, Patty, if you think Warner Brothers had their doubts, you wait till you get involved with these people. Will you even get through the process of production? Very interesting. I hope she does because I like her. It was the DCEU's most popular film yet, transcending the criticism levelled at the universe to become a bright spot in an otherwise suffering franchise. It wasn't suffering, sweetheart. Jenkins' process is not that far out there. In fact, having a script completed ahead of time is obviously an advantage, even if the director is reticent to change anything. Regardless, it seems like Jenkins has pulled it off. Right, let me explain something about her process. Listen, all creators have different processes. My process is half the time I barely write anything, and it's kind of I like making it up as I go along because there's so many ideas in that process. Obviously, you have to cast people who are happy to play it by ear because most actors would want a script right and words to learn off. And it's extra work because you have to sit there with the actors and say, this is how I see it and I want to know how you see it. But there's more of a collaborative kind of situation there. When you kind of following the script word for word, and this is just my opinion, it means it's less collaborative. Now, she's spoken before how her and Gal collaborate very well on the film. I'm not criticising this process. I just personally couldn't work that way. But a very interesting article. And here's some exciting news if you're a DC Comics graphic novel person. If you're not just into the live pictures and the cartoons, the movies, the TV shows, this is big news for Nightwing. Nightwing's next chapter is coming from Tom Taylor and Bruno Redondo. This is by Drew Moller. Nightwing is bringing Dick Grayson back to the Bloodhaven with Batgirl by his side and the fan-favourite creative team behind the Injustice and Suicide Squad. It has been quite the year for Dick Grayson, aka Nightwing. His year-long attempt to recall his former life after surviving a failed assassination attempt recently came to an end when the restored Richard Grayson reclaimed his classic black and blue uniform, but also his status as the Guardian of Bloodhaven. But things are looking more up than ever. As if the return of Nightwing wasn't exciting enough, DC Comics has announced that in March 2021, Nightwing will return to Bloodhaven along with his partner Barbara Gordon and the creative team of Tom Taylor and Bruno Redondo. This is excellent news. I love Tom Taylor. I love Bruno. This is great news. Fresh off their successful run on Suicide Squad and excited to elevate Dick to even grander heights as one of DC's premier heroes. Despite having killed Dick Grayson in the two separate DC Comics universes, DC's Injustice and deceased writer Tom Taylor is actually a fan and sees this as an opportunity to put the former Robin back on the pedestal where he belongs. It's also about taking everything Bruno and I love about Nightwing and testing him in a completely new way. Artist Bruno Redondo looks forward to the challenges with the kind of energy, humour and optimism that Nightwing represents, believing that he's the kind of hero people need right now. Working with Tom on Nightwing is the perfect evolution for us as a team. We have incredible ideas for Dick Grayson's new adventures. After Dark Knight's death metal saw long-time romantic partners Nightwing and Batgirl finally get married and taking place before DC's future state, Dick and Barbara return to Bloodhaven to discover that a new mayor with the last name Zuko has been elected, posing two questions. Is he related to the same man who murdered Dick's parents? And is this good for Bloodhaven? While Nightwing has Barbara investigate the new politician, Batgirl will discover details that will shock and fundamentally change DC's first sidekick and beloved Bat family member. These details, along with the revelation of a new canine sidekick, Dick's own Ace the Bat Hound, came with a number of advanced preview pages. as seen below. Well, these are pretty cool. So I think this is going to be obviously the front cover. Looks pretty awesome, right? Then you've got this. Oh, this is DC really do give us some great artwork. Beautiful artwork. And I think these are kind of just some pages from the actual graphic novel. Brilliant. And there's just really an idea what we've got there. So it's really exciting. Considering their track record, it's safe to say that Nightwing is in good hands. Taylor and Redondo elaborated and explained more about the worlds of DC's Injustice outside of the successful video games. Despite its short length, their recent Suicide Squad run was also well received by both fans and critics, praised for its character and development and the flawless collaboration of its creative team. Tom Taylor shows that same attention to DC's history that also makes his deceased series such a delight, but also that fearless drive to push characters into new territory. And Bruno Redondo's artwork is both grandiose but also detailed and compact where it counts. I agree. The inclusion of a canine psychic brings to mind Zoe Lawton's Dogshot, an adorable addition to the Suicide Squad's cast of former terrorists, criminals and villains. It'll be interesting to see how Dick balances being a pet owner with being in a relationship and being the protector of Bloodhaven. I've got nothing there. But he's Nightwing. He's used to walking a tightrope and still putting on a hell of a show. And with both two characters behind him, it'll be one to remember, guaranteed. Nightwing 78, written by Tom Taylor with art and cover by Bruno Redondo, colour by Adrian Lucas. It's very exciting. It's very, very exciting. I believe since Warner Media have taken over DC, I think they've really chiselled out the dead wood at the comics division, and we're getting more thoughtful stories and graphic novels. I think they've chiselled down and reduced the slate, but I think that makes it better because there were a lot of stories and things and graphic novels that just weren't working. And Warner Media want this platform to be profitable. And why shouldn't it be? Because comic books and superheroes are the most popular platform in storytelling right now. And they're right to do this. Remember, you can tag me and follow me over on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. Ask me anything, suggest articles, suggest video topics, and I'll also give you a shout out. And Scott Edwards is back with the vengeance with an interesting poster of White Canary and the Flash. I think he really likes them. And it's a pretty cool poster, right? If you're into your Arrowverse. He says, at Movies TV Mad, another cool poster of Flash and White Canary, along with my official questions for tomorrow's DCEU Daily. Do you think Black Manta will be the main villain? Do you think Black Manta will be the main villain of Aquaman 2? What role do you think Orm will play in the sequel? This is actually a really, really good question, Scott. It's interesting because Black Manta was kind of forced into the first Aquaman film by Jeff Johns, which a lot of people have said, mostly fans, but that's the rumour. I do think Black Manta is definitely in Aquaman 2. Whether he will be the main villain or maybe he and Orm will team up yet again, because they did team up a bit in the first one, and maybe they will create an issue. Now, apparently, this film's going to be set on land, more on land than actually Atlantis. Again, that's very interesting, how they're going to do this. So I think that maybe Orm and Black Manta may actually do this together. I hope that answered your first question, Scott. And here's a poster from Scott Edwards of Crisis on Infinite Earths, and it looks pretty cool. They're great to see all these DC characters together in any franchise that they do them in. And Scott says this, at Movies TV Mad, here's an awesome fan-made poster for Crisis on Infinite Earths. I love seeing all the heroes come together to fight the evil Anti-Monitor. Sure, some parts may have been cheesy, but Crisis on Infinite Earths is one of the best things in DC. Agree? Listen, I liked it. It was good. It worked. Now, it's interesting coming from my perspective because ever since really Arrow season 4, I think I stopped really watching. I came back for season 7, which was amazing. So I wasn't really up to date with everything that was going on, but being on social media, I knew where all the storylines were going. So I was always going to watch Crisis. I enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. And obviously we saw Ezra Miller cameo in the final episode. That was the big one for me. But I think it was basically an Infinity War and Endgame of DC on television. But I think Flashpoint, the movie, will be even bigger than that. And Scott's got one more thing to say. Where are we? Here we are. And finally, Scott Edwards says, at Movies TV Mag, and my final question for tomorrow, have you seen the animated film Justice League Throne of Atlantis? I haven't. If so, what do you think of Orm as the villain in that film against him as the villain in the live-action Aquaman film? Well, obviously I haven't seen the film. I'm going to have to go and watch it so one day I can answer your question there. And I do like the DC animated stuff. But I haven't seen that one. But I can tell you what I think of Orm in the Aquaman movie. And that is this. I think he was an amazing villain with great motivations. And I loved it, especially when he sees his mother, a.k.a. Nicole Kidman, at the end. And that's how the fight between him and Aquaman stops. I think that's great. In the end, he calms down and he goes quietly. And he goes, "We will talk." What does Aquaman say to him? "We'll talk," or something like that. So I like that dynamic between Orm and Arthur. And I just think Patrick Wilson has great quality in whatever he does. He has got a great screen presence and you just want to see more and more of him. So I think Orm was fantastic in the first Aquaman film. And I can't wait to see him in the sequel, Scott. So I hope I answered all your questions well. Remember, any questions for me, tag me over on Twitter, at Movies TV Mag. Give me a follow as well. And I will be back tomorrow with even more DCEU and everything else daily, because tomorrow, big show tomorrow, because I will be reviewing not only the season 2 finale of The Mandalorian, but seasons 1 and 2, not episode for episode, but just a brief roundup of what I think of the latest kind of entry into the Star Wars universe. I'll see you again tomorrow. Don't miss it.